we are wrapping up April with some fresh data around inflation, GDP, some earnings from Amazon and Intel. We're going to be talking about all of that momentarily. As we get going, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. Nothing that Kevin or I say is financial advice. We're not financial advisors. We're a couple of guys who love nerding out on economics, following the markets, looking at the macro. So please do your own research before any buys and sells. Kevin, a lot of data out there. It doesn't look great as we've been expecting. How are you feeling about the markets as we close out April and head into the second month of Q2?
Uh, I think we've had a pretty optimistic month, considering all the earnings and everything that's played out. Again, we knew that a lot of this was going to be interesting because we weren't going to get a rate hike in this month. So everything's kind of just been, compiled data, and it's eventually leading to next week. So right now, I think the markets are kind of doing what they usually do. A little rally into the summer. Volumes are starting to drop. People are probably going to be checking out of the market soon. Uh, that's what I'm seeing. I don't feel confident in the current prices of everything right now. I think we've hit our hit resistance quite a few times. We've tested it, but I definitely think that the markets are definitely overvalued.
Yeah, it's been a good month, especially for the risk on assets. We see that Bitcoin, I saw it was around 9% up on the month, not half bad. If we look at, the S&P has been mainly led by just a few big tech stocks. If we look at the 1 month, it's also up as well. So there's definitely been a strong April. It continues to rally, but there's a lot of cracks in the foundation, and we're starting to see it play out. So we had the latest inflation data this morning. PCE came in, that is the Fed's preferred inflation gauge, excluding food and energy, which those are such big things. I get that they fluctuate, but still it's a big deal. Anyway, excluding food and energy, it rose 0.3% in March, month over month, and year over year, it's 4.6%. And my God, that is just still so high and so far away from the 2% goal that the Fed claims we're going to get to. I have my doubts that we're going to ever get down to 2% inflation. I don't know what it's going to take. And if we do, it probably means that we see the markets get absolutely decimated.
Well, yeah, well, I think a huge part of that is because they've been kind of pussyfooting around with these 25 basis points. Again, we saw significant inflation, disinflation because of those 50s and 75s that we hit last year. Again, maybe if they started a little bit earlier, these 25s would make a bit of a difference. But right now, you're not seeing the smaller time scale, bringing down from 4%, 4.6% to 2% because these 25 base points don't make as much as an effect as those 50s, 75s do that quick. So I think right now we're just, like you said before the show, I think the Fed needs to go higher. The inflation is still too damn high, and the markets are extremely optimistic. And I think a lot of people in the economy are just really optimistic. They're hoping for a bull run that's never going to come. You're just going to see absolutes, inflation probably peak at some point this summer. And excluding energy and food is still one of the biggest bullshit metrics that they need to go by because let's be honest, that's the stuff that really affects people more than anything. Uh,
Yeah.
Fuck, you need to pay for gas to go to the store and buy inflated food, So it's gonna be something that needs to be considered, and the fact that they're not considering it and everyone's like looking at the headline numbers usually without looking deeper into the data or what's calculated is again something that just shows you that the market has no idea what's coming in the months ahead, again, especially into the end of this year, in my opinion. But I could be dead wrong. I know I'm not, though.
Yeah, we saw GDP come in at 1.1% for Q1. That's going to get revised. I wouldn't be shocked if it gets revised down, when they have the second and then the final number. But it's really bad. Like these numbers are quite bad heading into the summer. I don't know how people can be optimistic right now. In my opinion, I doubt it'll happen, but this is the ideal time for the Fed to throw a surprise 50 basis point hike in. Everyone's expecting 25. We've seen, the banks have been steady ever since SVB and First Republic. Like we've seen for the most part that like the banking sector bent, but it didn't break. Okay.
Mhm.
So I think the Fed at this point in time, what they need to do is shock the markets. 25 basis points is priced in. It's at, on CME Group, they have it at 90% probability. So that 25 basis point is fully priced into the markets right now. They need to throw a surprise 50 basis point hike in. They need to shock the markets. They need to show that they mean business and that they're not fucking around here. Because if they just keep doing what everyone expects them to do, the markets are going to be able to adjust accordingly. They need to keep the markets on their toes if they want to bring inflation down. Like that, to me, in my opinion, that's what needs to happen. I could be dead ass wrong. I don't think I am. I think they need to they need to tackle this head on. Like they're just dicking around, man, and it's gonna drag this out forever. You and I were talking about it earlier in the show. We're both bearish, in the short term. We want to see the prices go down so we can get better entries into crypto and stocks. And I'll be as patient as I need to be because I know we're going to get there eventually. But I think overall, the sooner they rip off the Band-Aid, the sooner we can move on with our lives and get things, get the pullback going and get the recovery going.
Yeah, it's absolutely it's wild, man, because just there's so many bulls and there's so much greed still in this market and nothing looks fucking good. Like, let's just be honest for a second. Like, the markets are going to keep pricing this in and they think that they're smarter than, the people who obviously make the markets. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we do get a surprise 50 or something that really just absolutely shakes the markets. We need that. There's a lot of people who are like, I was watching Bloomberg yesterday, and the reason that we saw this rally off these earnings is because a lot of people were opening shorts expecting, the prices to go down. Like the majority of the market's most likely bearish. However, we're just seeing tons of people still pouring cash in on the long side. So, I mean, we need to shake out the people that are just absolutely prolonging this. And again, I say that because this is going to happen regardless. We're going to see a crash at some point that's going to be catastrophic, and whether it's today or it's 6 months from now, it really it's going to happen. There's nothing we can do about it. These entry levels are going to be tapped. These are going to be tons of opportunity, but what we're doing right now is just absolutely just stretching this out, and it's catastrophic because this is just playing a game that's even more dangerous, and I think it's just trapping more people, if anything. And maybe that's the goal for market makers in the end. But for what I'm seeing, it's just absolutely chaotic to the fact that they're just doing these 25 basis points. I'd be happy if they did 50, give these markets some life, but I guess take some life out of the markets. That might be a better way of putting it. But yeah, I think it's necessary. We need some blood. I'm hungry for it.
Yep. Speaking of earnings, just real quickly, we saw Amazon report yesterday. Revenue was 127.4 billion versus 124.5 expected. It was interesting. I was watching the charts as the earnings came out. In the after hours trading, Amazon was up like 6, 7, 8% at times. This morning, in the cold light of day, we see that they are currently down about 4%. Reason being, there is some forward guidance around cloud services, which is a big part of their business. A lot of companies are going to be cutting back, having to trim and operate lean, and that's going to be one area where Amazon expects their business to take a hit. So we're seeing a pullback in Amazon. Might not be a bad entry point. I know some analysts have like a price target of 130, and then Intel reported the worst quarterly earnings in company history. So they came in at the earnings per share. This was a loss per share of 4 cents. Revenue was 11.7 billion. I'm hearing people say that this is like a good opportunity to buy Intel at a low point. I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea. We buy fear, we sell greed, all that good stuff. So that's been a few of the reports today. We have ExxonMobil, so we'll get a better look at what's going on in the energy sector there. At Colgate Palmolive, and that's really it. And then next week is Fed time. We got FOMC, Jay Powell, our boy, talking on Wednesday. We'll get the rate hike decision then, and then later in the week we have unemployment. So a lot to look forward to next week. It's going to be a fun one. Do we have any charts we want to look at real quick before we wrap up the month of April?
Definitely. Yeah. Big one for today is definitely the DXY, because DXY was pumping into, the PC data coming out. And I was talking about this ascending triangle pattern that we were trading in for, past few days. And when I look at this, again, we're still focusing on this double bottom, this W, hit our ass down here on support, hit our head up here at resistance. I think we're going to come back and test this. But right now we're trapped in a smaller pattern on the lower time frames. Again, this is the weekly. So we're seeing that we're still got tons of progression to the upside and we're just trading along this trend line. If you look at the daily though, we were up here today, even all the way up to here before the PCE data broke in. And again, this is extremely overbought, but it's not to the point where it could go higher, this range. So I think that we are going to be trading in this pattern until it breaks out. But here's the thing about the ascending triangle patterns. These are most of the time they're extremely bullish. Like these break to the upside majority of the time. So I anticipate us to break above this in like one massive green candle, and then we'll find some support, consolidate right around here before we make our next move to the upside, which is I'm 100% still bullish on the dollar. I think that a lot of people have written this off, but this pattern formation, and we were calling this pattern like up here. Like that's when we were talking about it back in like February of this year. We were saying that if we do come down here, we could get a double bottom before we have massive continuation. Looking at the DXY on the weekly, looking at the DXY on the monthly, we're golden for another push to the upside. And the thing is, if we break above, the support here, that the neckline of this W pattern, this double bottom pattern, then, we're going to test the next level of support, or resistance, and we're just going to trade in here. So the dollar is going to be stronger. And every time we break resistance and it becomes support, we're going to keep climbing to the next level. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out going into the end of the year. With a stochastic RSI that oversold on the monthly, oversold on the weekly, I think that there's tons of fuel for this one to move up. And again, everyone's counting the dollar out right now. It seems like more people are betting against the dollar than they are going, longing it. And I think that the formation that we're seeing here is a formation that makes more sense to be longing than, shorting. And again, that's the indice for the DXY if you want to do that. But for me, I am still a believer that cash is going to be king going into the end of this year. Nothing's changed from my convictions that that's going to, change it anyway. Even if the United States collapses, not going to happen, but it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Okay. I cannot see you anymore, Kevin, but we'll keep it rolling.
There I am.
Is there anything else? There we go. Anything else we want to look at on the charts?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at Bitcoin. And
okay.
Because Bitcoin, obviously, we've been charting it. Little son of a bitch, they fucking shot up like $200 since we were talking. Bitcoin's being naughty, guys. All right, you can see on the daily stochastic RSI that obviously we shot up. We're coming up pretty close to the overbought territory. We're seeing a little bit of red today, but we didn't break higher than this 31,000 that we got on Binance. Again, 31,000 to the penny. Definitely not manipulation. But came up here, we broke above this supply zone area, so we're trading in the bottom area of the supply zone. I do believe that we're not going to put in a higher high than this. I think that this massive move to the downside. Let's see, there's it's on the weekly. Yeah, so last week we got this massive bearish engulfing candle that came down here, and then that's fucking bearish. Yeah, like it's in its name itself. It came down lower than this candle did by a good amount, and now we're pushing up. However, I think this is just a bounce, a relief rally for a lot of people that are being little sour patch bitches, and we're gonna see this. Hopefully, these bulls get trapped in this area. Again, if you're bullish on this, be my guest. But let me just show you one thing. Why?
If you couldn't guess how Kevin was feeling right now, I think he made it pretty clear with that one.
Well, here's the thing. There's tons of manipulation in the market right now, and I'm looking at this pump off of low volume. Who the hell is pumping this off low volume? It doesn't make sense. It makes either it's the dollar going down and it's pushing the price up, artificially, not artificially, or that's one way with the price is actually pushing up without volume, or it's manipulation. And that pretty much means that there are market makers in this space that are pushing the price up either through stable coins or through some other way to, trap longs. So they'll push the price up while going short, and then they'll crash it, and then they'll take profit, and they're just going to wipe out and liquidate everyone on the way. But that's the game right now for Bitcoin. But we're seeing on the weekly we are overbought and we're coming down from it. I think that to this move to the upside that we pushed up again could be, wave 2 possibly. We got the massive candle down, got our bounce on the weekly. See another, wave 3 is usually the biggest wave, so that can come down to. I'm going to say it 25, 280. Let's see if that hits. All right. Again, if this is playing out like a 5-wave count, let's just pull up these real quick. these wave counts kind of suck sometimes because, it's not always the way it plays out. So let's say wave 1, wave 2, let's say wave 3 there, wave 4, and then wave 5 somewhere around here. That'd be one way to look at it, but this could also be a bigger play where it's just absolutely like we're just going to create the same pattern on the opposite side, which I do believe is going to happen. But again, I think a lot of this market right now is really unsure. I've seen bears turn to bulls just from this price action alone when it, dumped and then pumped right back into it. I think we're seeing distribution. There's no demand above this $31,000 level. That's why I don't believe that we're going to push up above it. And again, Bitcoin dominance is still pretty high. So if we go over to Bitcoin dominance, this morning I tweeted out that this is a double top right here, and we're kind of trading right around that neckline there where we were before it dumped the other day. And how many times we've hit this? We've hit it 1, 2, 3, 4. So eventually we're going to get rejected. And that's pretty much going to mean that, negative price action is coming. However, I still believe that we are going to find a little bit more room to the upside. It's going to be one last fake out to the point where, everyone's going to go extremely long. And then, short positions are just going to absolutely just pile in. Everyone's going to get liquidated on the way down. So it's really interesting to see how Bitcoin dominance is still holding up extremely well compared to Bitcoin. Like other alts, it's slowly bleeding out with Bitcoin trading pairs. So like Cardano to BTC or ETH to BTC trading pairs with coin margin. It'd be really interesting to see how this is going into next week. Again, monthly closes on Sunday. So let's see, or whatever Sunday, whatever the end of the month is. But let's go to Bitcoin real quick on the monthly. See if there's anything we can notice there. Yeah, so that's a pattern. This is known as like a doji star right here. Let me see if I can remove this here. This is known as doji star. It's where the price goes up, but it also comes down and it kind of trades right in the middle. This is usually a top signal for a lot of things. They're not bullish by any means. So it'll be interesting to see how the next few months play out. But again, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4 months of bullish continuation. I mean, we could say that February was similar, but we still pushed up. But again, I'm still in the camp that this is a heavily manipulated market. We look at the volumes over here compared to where they are here, and they're still pushing up. Volumes are decreasing, price is pushing up. This is absolute BS, in my opinion. I think that we are going to see some correction in the next few months, especially as we head into summer and, people start to check out of the space. So if the dollar pumps in the summer, we start to see people check out, volumes are low. I think a lot of people have opened long positions right around here, expecting the price to go to 40K because it's a magnet. That's going to be absolutely time to see some red in the markets. So my estimate where the next move is, I'm going to go and say on the weekly, what was it, 25,280, I think is going to be a pretty good move to the downside. Again, finding support here and here, this resistance becoming support for this move to the downside.
Okay. Anything else you want to look at chart wise?
Let's check one thing. I haven't checked MMC. And again, this is one that I've been checking because this company has tons of different, it owns tons of different companies. And it's really interesting to see how this thing still hasn't reacted to, anything other than COVID in the past 15 years since the Great Recession. But extremely overbought on the weekly. We came really close to touching the top of this channel. We can see that this 183 level is resistance. We got a wick up there, rejected, and we're still trading in this parallel channel to the upside. However, we're starting to see some red on the weekly. If you look in the daily, it's coming down fairly well, but it looks like there's still room to the upside to push. And if we look at the monthly, I think the monthly is, still progressing pretty well, but this is probably a better indication to see how this stock's reacting. There's a huge gap between here and here. So that's between 142 and 120. So I do think that this one is going to be filled at some point in the future. And then obviously our COVID level was $74. I do think that a lot of things are going to retrace to the COVID levels eventually. In this bear cycle for sure, in my opinion. But I think that this one is definitely one that there's no eyes on, but has tons of exposure to different industries in the market, and they're technically industries that have tons of employees, but also pay them extremely high. So I think that if we do see some negative things across the market, it's going to trickle into this company, and obviously it's extremely overbought on the higher time frames other than the monthly. But this thing hasn't seen a bear market since 2008, and I think that it's extremely due for one. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But yeah, that's all I have. Nothing too crazy going into the monthly close. We're just going to sit and wait for how Bitcoin closes, and then obviously the alts are going to react however the dominance is playing out. So that's it for me.
All right. It'll be. I'm fascinated to see what's going to happen in the final half hour of the trading day. That's when we usually see, at the weekly close, monthly close, people, closing out their positions heading into the weekend. We tend to move, pretty sharply in one direction or the other. So interested to see that. And then we're going to start off the month hot on Monday. We are back to live shows next week. Thank God. I'm very excited about that. We'll be back live at 3 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday next week. We're gonna get after it. It's gonna be good, man. I'm excited for May. I know everyone goes away in May, but guess what? The money never sleeps, guys. We're not going anywhere. We're gonna be here through all of May, talking about this, getting ourselves ready, positioning ourselves to take advantage of this inevitable pullback that's gonna happen. Because I don't want to buy when things are at this point. We're at this this seems like a very bad time to be deploying capital to me. Like
Yeah.
the market is overly frothy right now. People are too excited, but everything's trading on low volume. Everything's trading on hopes and dreams. And I don't like to bet my money on hopes and dreams. I like to bet it on data and what I think is the most likely outcome from probability wise, what's the most likely outcome? And to me, the most likely outcome is we are going lower. I want to buy stocks and tokens for cheaper. So that's the plan. Maybe it's May, maybe it's June, maybe it's July. I can be more patient than most people. So that's just my game plan for now. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, drop a comment, share us out with your friends. We appreciate every little bit of that. Kevin and I love doing this show. We want to, try to help as many people as we can. So any interaction with it is greatly appreciated. Kevin, have an awesome weekend, everybody. We will see you on Monday.
Take care, everyone. Watch those funding rates.